of Tea and Talks. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to everyone. Welcome to the 5th episode of Tea and Talks. We will be your 3 hosts for the day.
Hello, I'm Omema.
Hi, my name is Imaan.
And my name is Lina.
So today we'll be talking about COVID-19 and how it has affected our lives from both the personal side and the educational side.
Yeah, we feel like amidst the entire pandemic, we think it would be good to just take a step back and, really analyse the changes that we've had to implement due to the entire situation we're currently in. So that's what we're going to be focusing on a bit more today. So I think we'll start off the episode with a question we were sent in, and that was for us as hosts, when did we first, realise just how severe the situation is, and when did it really hit us?
I mean, for me, I think it was in about April when it was going past that 2 weeks. So in March, we were told that we're not going to be in school for 2 weeks, but then it went to 1 month and then 2 months, and then it's been like 6 months. So I think it was a bit overwhelming for everyone.
I didn't actually realise it's been 6 months.
Literally,
the time just goes, doesn't it?
When you think of it as 6 months, you don't really kind of appreciate how long it is, but then you think half a year and you're just like, that's a long time. But for me it was when thankfully I didn't have to see you guys anymore. That was a joke. But I think it was quite similar to Imaan's one, where we thought that we'd coming in for the Friday, but we didn't end up coming in for the Friday. Thursday was the last day, and we were told that we had 2 weeks off, and then after the 2 weeks we'd have the Easter holidays, and then after that we'd just come back to school normally. But it was definitely longer than
just
one
a
month,
bit.
just a tiny
Yeah,
bit.
no, I think for me it really hit me just how severe the situation is when I heard that someone I knew personally had caught the virus, because I think it's one thing, hearing about it on the television or reading about it online, but it's another when you properly realise, oh wait, this is very much a real thing and it's affecting people I know and it may affect me. So for me that was when I'd say it really hit. It was more a turning point for me, because you understand a lot more about the severity of situations when people you personally know are affected by those things.
I think at the start we were I thought anyway, that it's in a different country, it's in China, it's not going to come here.
I think lots of people thought that, it's quite far away, so we're safe, it's not going to get us, and then next thing you know, people in your street have it, people in your city have it, in your neighbourhood. It is quite daunting.
Not even that. If we look at kind of how the start of the year and how we kind of planned everything out to be, the events that we kind of had in mind, it didn't turn out like that.
It's like there was this really funny picture that was circulating online, and it was what was it? All right, the most useless purchase of 2020 was the yearly planner, and I think that's so accurate, because for me, I purchased this really nice one. Sorry, I was going to purchase a really nice one online, and it fit in my room because I recently had it redecorated, but I didn't end up doing it, and I like to say that was divine intervention, because I was saved from spending my money on something that was extremely useless. But
you would spend it on something else. Let's be serious.
That's actually very true. I'm very bad with money.
Even if we think of kind of all the rules and regulations that before, when we were in quarantine, obviously we were at home, so we didn't really have to respond in any way, but just don't leave the house. But then once we were introduced to kind of the outside world, there was things that we had to follow. For example, you can't go outside or go into a shop or whatever it is without having a mask on. And we know that, I think it was this Monday, where if you're going into school, if you're going into kind of some educational institution or whatever it is, that you have to keep your masks on.
Yeah,
I think, literally when I have a mask on, I cannot breathe, I'm not going to lie, and it's quite annoying. I mean, obviously the new rules, we have to wear it in school now, it's just a bit annoying.
You have to wear it throughout, so what about in classrooms and stuff? Does it have to stay on?
The rules
it's
might
more
change
lenient
again
in classrooms, but if you're walking around, you have to have it on.
Yeah,
so through the corridors.
The corridors and the bathrooms and things like that.
If we walk in and then, if you walk in and you don't have a mask on, they'll tell you get your mask out, and then you'll sanitise your hands at the front. If you don't have a mask, you have to go and pick one up.
And you have to pay 50p for a mask.
Yeah, see, for me, the mask situation never really bothered me until I realised...
She's homeschooled, by the way.
Yeah, that's why, the whole school corridors, I don't have to deal with any of that. But for me, I think I only realised, oh wait, this is actually a bit irritating when I had to keep wearing it before going into Tesco, because...
She basically lives at Tesco.
No, I do, it's like my second home.
There's this old security guard, and once she came back and we went, And they were just having a nice little conversation. I was like,
No, he's
"Are
a
you just
lovely old chap,
befriending
you know. He always
everybody?"
asks me, "Oh, good to see you again. How's your day been?" Every time I
She
walk
hasn't
in.
got many friends, but thankfully he's quite nice.
I make
to
a
her.
good one. He's a very good one. They wouldn't know about that. But
Mm.
yeah, it's lovely. But having to go in there all the time with the mask and everything, it definitely got really irritating because when you're having to shop, then you're always adjusting the mask. And especially for me, because the way I put it on is I'll have two safety pins clipped there, and then I'll put the mask around them, and then put my hijab in and everything. So it gets really irritating. You have to take it on and off, etc.
That's literally for school. In the corridors, we have to put it on, and then we can take it off when we get in the class, and on and off.
It's so irritating. And as well, I remember at the start, every time we'd go shopping, my mum, when we come home, we'd have to wipe everything off, or we'd have to clean it all. And it was so irritating.
But what about even like canned food? You have to wash everything.
Everything, like
That is
everything.
everything.
Apart
Yeah,
from
we don't
fruit,
have that.
because you'd wash them anyways, but everything else, it had to be washed. And I'm not gonna lie, I'd always lie and
your
say
mum's
to my
watching, by the way.
sister,
That
she
irony-
told
that
you,
irony in there.
my mum doesn't.
Okay. A new host is in town.
Sorry, that is a spoiler. It's our next host for the next show. But yeah, sorry, carry on. What were you saying?
Basically, like I said before, we're looking for replacements for Lina, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But-
are. Leo's gonna run it. He took
Oh,
the.
yeah.
We gave him a
Leo's the
Wanted
deposit.
one.
the money, that was
Yeah,
it,
we gave him a
really.
deposit. He took the money and ran.
Wasn't
Like
he
I said
sleeping
last
here
time.
earlier? No, he's
Like
gone
I said,
now.
he ran. Money changes people. I said it before, and I'll say it again.
And it changed
Very bad.
you, didn't
It-
it?
Me.
Yes.
It
you.
did. It's true.
Anyway, shall we go back on topic, guys?
All right. Sorry.
What were we talking about?
Shopping, washing the shopping.
It's so irritating, absolutely irritating. But as well, like, talking about like the rules and regulations and stuff, what about kind of routines? Because now that we have kind of gone back into whatever we were doing before, whether that's work or school or whatever, you've all had to kind of readjust your life around the new kind of modern. What are you looking
Yeah,
at
no.
me for?
No, I'm trying to pay attention. No, that's very true because I know for me, you know, after 6 months or so of not going into work and not doing any of that, having to suddenly get back to waking up in the morning to get ready, leave the house, go to work, and then even all the other regulations that I have to follow there, because, you know, as a nursery, there's a lot more that we have to implement, and even things like certain activities or toys can't be left out, like sand play, for example. We have to keep that away.
Imaan normally pops in, she plays with sand for a bit, so she can't do
does,
that
so
anymore.
unfortunately, one of our nursery children have really struggled with that deprivation of sand play. But you know, because for a practitioner, for example, having the sand out is key for sensorial play.
I
so
don't think
having to
anyone
cut
cares
that
about
off.
the sand, Lina. Sorry.
Moving on from my
disappoint.
sandpit, then it's definitely been very hard to, you know, well, not really hard. I wouldn't say it's actually been too
It has
hard.
been really hard actually. I called her I think it was last Friday, and it was
Really?
about it was about 11:30, and she always brags. I wake up early. I get
don't
my
brag, I
work
just
done.
declare.
She does.
It's not bragging.
Okay, I'm very productive. Called her at 11:30. Hello. Did I
Right,
wake
stop.
you up?
No,
Yes,
no,
you did
stop.
wake me up.
Let's put this into perspective. So usually we're open on nurseries from Monday to Friday, but we're not doing Friday for the first couple of weeks since we've opened. So I had Friday as a day off. So she decided to ring me the one day. I thought, you know, I don't have work today. I'll
Bear
just
in
sleep in a
mind, she
little
was
bit.
going to sleep past 11:30,
Yeah.
so
No,
that could
I
have gone
wake
to
her up.
1 or 12.
I had an alarm on for 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock? And then she rings me to say, oh, hey, what time? You know, she wanted to ask about the next rehearsal stuff for the shows and things. And I said, the one day she could have let me sleep, she didn't. So that's...
And the message was put up on a group
Yeah,
chat.
we did
good chat.
ask what time are we meeting up. She didn't reply, so I might as well, you know.
Right, let's move off from me not replying to you
Anyways,
because it's a
back to
regular
normal
occurrence.
routines. Yeah, I think it all has been quite different.
You think?
Yeah. No, apart from like the whole waking up and stuff, obviously you don't get to maybe see as many people, you don't get to keep in contact with people because you're not allowed to. Like, I know, for example, like, if I'm going to a friend's house after school or something, it doesn't matter if we're in at the same time. If they see us standing next to each other, they'll tell us to move apart, even if, you know, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be in the same kind of bubble as that person.
Yeah, I
but
had a question about that because I know you were both speaking about being in separate bubbles, but I thought some people have a certain amount of people they can be in that bubble with, and others have to have their entire year or so. So how does it work?
I think it's different for each schools because each school, sorry, because in my school, like our whole years are different bubbles. So year 8's a bubble, year 10's a bubble. But in Omema's sister's school, it's only the one class with 30 people in.
For her, it's quite different. Like, she stays in one room all day, but then.
So what about like lunchtimes and
See,
stuff?
I don't know, because is it actually effective if there's 30 of them in a room, but then when it comes to lunch or break or whatever it is, they're still cross-contaminating? But for me, it's like we're completely different. Like, they've split us up in half, so I think it's only about 10 of us in a room at the same time.
That's yeah. I heard first, because I was confused about that, because I heard first, we can only meet with a certain number of people in schools, and then afterwards it was, oh no, actually you can meet with your entire year. So I was confused about that. But I think another thing we should mention is how the use of devices and such has really increased throughout lockdown.
I think people have maybe started, well, because they've been that bored in lockdown, started on the phones more, or just scrolling through Instagram or whatever they're doing. And I think that they have got more attached to it and kind of felt like, I don't know how to say it, not safe,
They
but
don't kind of have any other outlet but through that.
Yeah, and I think even going beyond just being bored, when you're deprived of that social interaction and, being able to see each other in person and such, a lot of the time, lots of relationships or friendships can be based on that interaction, isn't it, socially and in person. So by using phones, it's a means of maintaining connection with people, and that's really understandable. But I think in the long term, when you have to, because I think in your schools you're not allowed phones, is that correct?
So I think that people who have got attached to it and they're not allowed on the phones in school, it's kind of a bit maybe hard for them because they've been on it so much and they're so used to being on it.
Yeah, another thing is, I think a lot of people can actually relate to the whole when you can be very comfortable speaking with someone online or on the phone or texting, but then when you see them in person, it's suddenly very awkward and you don't know how to speak.
Especially when that's how you've come acquainted to that person. If it's a mutual friend or whatever, that's how you first start to kind of develop that friendship, and then when you do meet them, it might not kind of feel the same.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of magnified a lot more throughout COVID-19 and everyone being at home and lockdown and such, because you've gotten a lot more used to speaking to each other over the phone, so now seeing each other in person can be a little bit confusing and stuff, definitely.
And I think that because it has been 6 months, it's like people have got used to it. Like if it was only 2 weeks, then
it would be easy to adjust again.
But because it's 6 months.
But even if we think there have been many negatives, as getting addicted or maybe not kind of feeling safe, but at the same time there has been many positive. For example, with spending time with those around you, or kind of having more time to yourself. But I know that one thing that Imaan's found hard quite adjusting to is how you were saying about that you're a picky eater.
Oh right, food's everything for Imaan. You're aware?
Okay, just to
These two just swore off dessert for a week. I'm not joining them, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's move on from that quickly.
So obviously the canteen's not open at school. Well, it is, but we can only go in one day, so each year has a specific day when they can go in. So my day is Thursday, so tomorrow. I'm so excited. So every other day my mum has to make something for my lunch, and just me being a picky eater, I just
Wait,
run out of
hold
ideas.
On. What was that thing she did about cheese a while ago?
Oh my god, no. I think was it on Monday or was it Tuesday? She came over and she said...
Oh, what? When?
Yeah, well, you weren't there, so I'm sorry. But
Right,
no,
okay.
and I gave her a wrap and she goes, oh, I'm allergic to cheese. I goes, no, you're not, because you're eating pasta. And then she goes to me, oh, sorry, I just don't like it. So she opened it and started picking it out. I was just looking at her.
I still don't know to this day she's actually allergic to carrots, or she makes that up.
I know.
That's
She's
probably another thing.
self-diagnosed.
She was there to my mum. She was like, it's
so
not
she's
medical.
Not allergic then.
It is.
It was embarrassing. My mum kind of laughed at you, not going to lie. But
Let's not even mention that the conversation that happened that day.
it was horrible. She completely ratted me out and made me seem like a really bad both of us actually. She said that
It
we
was quite
bullied
fun.
her on the show. I think we're quite nice to him, Mum, not going to lie.
I think we're very kind.
But,
Can you fashion
but as well with like,
Carry on.
No, right, but yeah, I think with Imaan, because she was saying that, as she mentioned, the hot dinners and stuff aren't being provided at her school, apart from one day for each year. So she was saying before something about your mum and how it's been difficult on her, isn't it?
I mean, you can't just keep having the same thing for days. Like, I don't like sandwiches it might be weird, but I just don't like sandwiches. And my mum generally doesn't. She just runs out of ideas of what to make for
And
me.
it must be like having to constantly be up and, you know, preparing food.
Yeah,
It's
up
going to be
earlier
very
to
strenuous,
prepare the
isn't it?
food. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we've had to adjust to for implementing in schools and for students. And I know as a practitioner working in the nursery, we've had a lot of things that we've had to implement at work, even things such as amongst COVID-19, so amidst it all, we've had to start steam cleaning toys, and there's been restrictions on certain types of activities, as I mentioned earlier, like the sand play, etc. So there's definitely been a lot more things that we've had to implement and, you know, put into perspective.
Right. Like, if you think of just kind of lockdown in general, I know as well that a lot of people have lost kind of maybe interest in hobbies, or they're just not as engaged in things anymore. So when they have come down to school, they just don't pay attention or focus as much because they just can't.
And they're just used to staying at home. And when they have been doing work, it's in a free environment where you can do what you want. You can go to the bathroom when you want. You can have hot chocolate. It's just
Have
chill.
hot chocolate. We have our priorities sorted.
But
folks,
even
don't
that,
we?
like, there's just the rules keep changing and no one knows what's going on. Like, I keep getting confused. I don't know what I'm doing. And
Literally, like 1 week, we're allowed to meet people. Then we're allowed to have a sleepover. Then
then
we're
you
allowed
have
to
to-
meet 6 people. I'm like,
Yeah,
I mean-
and then you can have a sleepover whilst maintaining 2 meter distance. I'm sorry, it's so confusing, and it's really like on our side, what are you meant to do? Because you're told, don't do this, but you can do this as long as you're not doing this, which you can only do if you do this, which you're not like this.
so there's just no
I'm sure that
point
came
of it in
across as
general.
very confusing, but that's literally how it's being put across to us. Like the constant uncertainty that's caused because of the lack of clarity for all these rules and regulations definitely makes it a lot more difficult to be able to actually appropriately implement these things in general, or just
I do know at the same time, obviously, because you said it's uncertain, we haven't experienced this before. I've never experienced it before as well, so it's hard to kind of say what's right and what's wrong, because
and what we're meant to do.
what are you meant to do when you don't really know what the consequence is going to be?
Yeah, like another thing that I want to say is basically at my school, when you hand in a piece of homework, they have to quarantine that piece of paper
You being
or the
serious?
book. No, I'm being serious. They have to quarantine that piece of paper or book for 2 days, and then they mark it, and then they have to quarantine it again for 2 days, and then give it back to us. And I mean, it's just long, isn't it?
That is quite long.
Yeah.
that's going to put things back a lot, isn't it? Like I know another thing about, since you're mentioning paperwork and such, even with I had with driving tests and everything, there's been just everything has been really prolonged, hasn't it? Because I heard some people can't even start their driving lessons and such until next year, I think, because there's been the constant prolonging of lockdown and whatnot, and then the whole COVID-19. So they've had to put a lot of things behind, and they're really behind schedule on a lot of things. So it's definitely been very difficult in that sense, and that constant extra weight, I think.
I think, like Omema said it, like, what are we meant to do? Like, this has literally never happened before.
Look, we don't know what's wrong or what's right, and we don't know kind of how to adjust to things because things keep changing. Obviously, the numbers did drop, so everything was safe, and then we all went back to kind of school and work. But then
And they
now they've all
literally.
they've all rose again.
All right, there's been another rise, yeah.
Yeah, and we might even go back into lockdown again. So it is.
Birmingham
just,
is already,
I was
isn't
going
it?
to say Birmingham, I think, has already gone back into lockdown. But I think, you know, it's definitely been really confusing for everyone, really, this whole pandemic and everything. But whilst there have been lots of rules and regulations implemented that have been either really confusing to follow or really difficult or even just very tedious and irritating, what we do need to keep in mind is that we all should try our best to do our part, and the least we can do is, you know, do our best to follow these rules and regulations, because these are things that are very important. And
keep yourself safe. Like, I know obviously that's what everyone's saying, like keep yourself safe, but I know that it's hard to when you are kind of surrounded by a lot of people, whether that's 30 or 50, and even though we do still have to maintain, you know, that 6.
yeah,
Isn't it like 6 people?
6 people,
yeah,
I think,
in
I
the,
don't know.
in the same room, but then when you go to places like work, you can't maintain that, so
And
keep
restaurants
yourself
and things.
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely true, because with a lot of like even going to restaurants and stuff, I think when people go into there and you're told, you know, you don't have to wear a mask here, people start slowly, maybe even subconsciously settling back into how they normally were, and then they start going to shops without the mask because they're used to maybe going to eat without it.
I've realised that, you know, every time I go into, I'll see a lot of people that aren't wearing a mask. Like even earlier when I came in to meet you, there wasn't, like, when that woman just walked in, she wasn't, oh my God, that woman. When she walked in, we'll not tell the story today, but when she wasn't wearing a mask.
No, even throughout my constant Tesco visits, there's been constantly people, you know, you see people, they're not wearing the masks, they're not, well, I don't know about anything else, but they're just not wearing a mask. And that's about all I can pick up from. I should hope everyone's sanitising. And actually, on that note, I know we talked about how irritating it can be with the constant regulations, and whilst I'm perfectly fine saying goodbye to masks eternally, one thing I think that is a very good practice is, you know, when you have to wear hand sanitizer before you go into buildings, because personally I have no problem with that at all.
I think we used to kind of carry them around anyway, so they haven't been.
She did. She's always had this collection of hand sanitizer, so she's been.
I was really stocked up when it came to this COVID, you know. I was the plug.
Yeah, she was. All the secret dealings, hand sanitizer bottle for £10. It's a rip-off.
Good business, not gonna lie. It's great timing for me.
But that's one thing I'd want to personally, you know, it would be really interesting for me if that had to stay and became mandatory after the whole pandemic passes, hopefully, because it's just basic hygiene, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with keeping your hands sanitised.
No, it's so. But the thing is, with the mask, it's really funny because you can't actually see anyone's facial expressions. But the other day, I saw this woman, like, she was quite old, so I kind of felt bad about it, but there was this woman with, I think it was with a granddaughter or something.
I'm a bit scared now, carry on.
Well, oh yeah, you guys haven't heard this, I haven't told it yet. But she was with a granddaughter and she was I think she was about 1 year old or something. And there was this girl sitting next to her. It was so funny. There was this girl sitting next to her. And she had a mask on, so I couldn't see her facial expression, but I saw this girl's eyes because the baby kept throwing a fuss and things kept falling on the floor. And I think she was just kind of like scared about
like
hygiene-wise because they were quite close and stuff. So I saw that she put her bag like that and she kept moving over. I felt quite sorry for her, but it was quite entertaining for me to watch. So.
Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. That was very, I think whenever Omema starts to say something, you know, a story she hasn't told us before, we kind of panic. We're like, what's she going to say now? Oh my God.
So I played it safe, don't worry.
Yeah, that was another one of those moments. But
I saw your like shaking.
I was terrified. But yeah, that's a very interesting story. Thank you for your...
Yeah.
See, I'm so nervous, I'm tongue twisted, even though she's finished talking. Imaan, say something, please. I'm a bit honest right now.
Okay, what do I say?
Oh, thank you for your input. That was
Have
really
you got any more stories to share?
No, I
Why would
thought
you ask
I'd
her
be
that?
handing
No,
it over
don't
to
ask
you
her
now.
that. Back to hand sanitizer. It's great. Sanitize your hands. Hygiene is perfect. Lovely.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry for looking at me.
Because she's put everyone on edge. I'm really sorry about that. She just does that to the
Knocked us
atmosphere.
off.
But I think there's been a few more positives that I've thought of, you know, amidst the whole pandemic. And I think that's been, whilst of course people have lost interest in a lot of their hobbies because they've been, you know, unable to continue them, because a lot of them require maybe going out and such. There's also been a
Like
very large...
Imaan and her very long plans for this year.
that none of them came to light.
Yeah, I was planning to go to the gym just to glow up basically, and
It didn't happen,
like
did
the
it?
year's basically gone. It's like winter.
Autumn. It's autumn. But I know another
It
thing.
wasn't
you know.
autumn 2 days ago. God, the weather was warm, wasn't it?
No, but I think another positive is, you know, lots of people have developed hobbies an interest in particularly cooking and baking. Like someone I know as well, they started baking over COVID-19 because they were bored, and then I think they're planning to now turn it into a business because they've gotten really good and it's been really impressive actually.
Omema started to bake brownies.
And then you started to bake them. Oh God, I had like a whole roller coaster ride of stuff that I wanted to do. But before like quarantine and stuff, I always like, okay, maybe not always, but I'd cook more often, like maybe like family meals and stuff. My sister's giving me like a dirty look, like that never happened, but it did happen, you liar. Yes, it did. Don't look at me like that. Anyways, but yeah, I used to cook a lot. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop her there. the way she is now is she won't, and she's actually openly told
No,
us this.
I'm going to admit it.
No, she said, now I won't even eat unless there's food prepared for me,
No,
ready
I
on the
said that to
table.
us.
No, I can't. It's too much effort to like go downstairs to do anything. So if I don't see it in front of me, I'll just go back up.
Wait,
And that's how
talking about
unproductive she
baking,
is.
who made this? Wait, is it
That
from the
was
shop?
No, it's homemade.
Oh.
This,
No,
by
you
the way,
didn't
was
make
made
it.
by my little sister and my auntie. So that's
actually really
Vis
nice.
Hanmuni and Amina. So shout out to both of them.
Oh, was
very
it
nice.
collective? Oh.
I said made by the pair of them. Of course,
Sorry, I
it's collective.
zoned out once you started
I
speaking.
think, yeah. Well, I think that marks as good as time as any to conclude our session. And I know usually, when we end these, we have generally have more of a message or an aim to share at the end of our shows. But today we just wanted to spend more time discussing,
kind of
what's
wanted-
actually happened.
We kind of wanted to just kind of shed light and acknowledge and kind of emphasise what has happened, and to not just kind of pass it by and say, get used
And
to
to
it.
share our opinions.
Yeah, because I think
more
it's something that's
share.
weird on everyone's minds, and having that outlet to just be able to talk about it. I know personally, it's been quite fun just being able to speak about it. Fun
Yeah.
maybe seem a little misplaced as a word, but I've enjoyed being able to speak about it. Openly say what I've enjoyed, or what I feel has benefited us, or what has been a bit tedious. So I think we hope that we've been able to maybe shed a bit more light on the changes that have happened and the things we've had to implement. And we hope that you'll find the next episode on Wednesday at 7 p.m. very enlightening.
So that's it for
Yep.
today, everybody.
Have a good day, and
You're not
we
going
hope
to give
see
us
you.
any teeth that's not poured
Yeah,
this week.
Ah,
Thank you, Lina.
The only reason I
Don't
have to
make
make is because I'm in the
spillage.
middle. Have a lovely time. We hope to see you next week.
Salams, loves.